Just before we start, we've had complaints that people can't hear us on the streaming, so please speak into your microphones, councillors.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. So I'll just wait for everyone to get a seat. Okay. So firstly, I'd just like to remind everybody that this is being live streamed. You'll be speaking into the microphone for those of you that are making a submission, and that means that what you say is available to the public to hear. I'd like to start by acknowledging the original custodians of the land we are meeting on, pay our respects to their elders past and present, and to any descendants who may be with us here today. This meeting is to hear submissions from the public about both the draft council plan and the draft budget. It's great to see so many people here today. We've received these submissions already in writing, and the councillors have read those submissions. You get a 5-minute period of time. You can read your submission or you can speak to your submission. We would like councillors then will be able to ask questions for clarification. Obviously, we're not going to be entering into a debate or a discussion with you, and nor are we making decisions tonight. But this is your opportunity to let us know what you think of the council plan and the draft budget. So are there any apologies or for the meeting? Any declarations of conflict of interest? Okay, so the first ones that are the budget submitters that have been requested to be heard. Let me find my bits of paper here. And the first one is, getting it here, Wes Canny and Ray Milne from the Waganya Racecourse and Recreation Reserve. Okay, welcome.
Okay, if you don't know me, I'm Ray Milne from the Waganya Recreation Reserve. Met a lot of you people before. It's very kind to be here tonight. The council's got our submission,
Yep.
So it is for the Recreation Reserve for suitable solar panel, and we all know what solar energy is all about, being a sort of green council yourselves, that we want to sort of go along with that. Sorry, Bernie.
Choke one of the councillors.
Yeah. The Waganya Recreation Reserve and is the sporting and community for the hub of Waganya, the fastest growing town within the Indigo Shire, with the latest census results from 2016. Due this year will be closer to 1,000 residents in 2017. The Waganya Recreation Reserve is the home of the Waganya Community Facility, Waganya Tennis Club, Cora Rutherglen Motor Sports Club, Waganya Lions Football and Netball Club, and in 2017, the Waganya and District Men's Shed. Overall membership for the clubs within the Recreation Reserve is increasing each year, with over 800, including 30 paid-up members of the Men's Shed that is due for the completion in September 2017. This is truly a community asset for all of us, a variety of sportsmen and community activities. With the multi-use venue, we'll see community use for the Men's Shed, tennis and football club competition during the day, with training and speedway during power for the twilight and night activities. The main thing is about the community management. You know, we've been in operation since about 1986 and been there all the time with a hard-working committee that stick together all the time. So Wes has got a few things to say as well.
That's it. I'm Wes Candy. I'm the Secretary Treasurer for the Rec Reserve.
Look, over the last 7 years, a lot of people here would see an amazing transformation for the new community facility. And we've got road and car park resurfacing supported and funded by the Indigo Shire. We've also been busy ourselves. We're sourcing through non-council funds. We've installed new light towers funded by the Waganya Lions Football Netball Club, resurfaced the netball court funded by the Waganya Lions Netball Football Club, and a grant from the Richard Pratt Foundation for the board to water the ground. We've been in consultation with Helen Jones from Indigo Shire Environmental Projects Officer in September, highlighting our concerns with the ever-increasing power costs. This came about as we are now billed as a small to medium business in the eyes of the energy suppliers. This has also been raised at the Waganya Community Forum in March 2017. You're all now very aware of the users of the Waganya Recreation Reserve, and the support of the solar power will help with the growth of the town, keeping this fantastic community asset user and environmental friendly. All you've got the support. I've also got all the bills from the power we've been getting, and open to any questions if you've got any, please.
Councillor Gaffney.
Do you have any quotes, Wes, or any rough idea of the cost, seeing it's a budget submission?
What we did was we went really in to think, when we spoke to Helen, we spoke to a lot of people, we're not sure what we need. We really need the advice probably of someone who's in the council who knows. I know with the previous community facilities that got solar, you had an agreement with Zen Energy, and we're thinking maybe we might be able to get contacts there. We're not sure exactly of the price. I think all we can say is this is what we're using, and hopefully a suitable solar system to meet that. And things have changed a lot in the last 5 years with battery power, and we're really open to whatever's the advice we can get from the experts and people that have used providers in the past that might be able to give us a bit of a heads up and also.
Just wonder whether the Director of Infrastructure might just have a rough figure that it might be.
Yeah, no, look, I really don't. As Wes and Ray said, until we get a good handle on what's required there, it's really hard to put a cost on. Certainly I know Helen Jones spoke to me and at this stage felt we didn't necessarily have, I suppose, a good feel of what the right outcome there is, and you know, we know the tariffs have changed a lot over the last couple of years, so but no, look, I don't have an estimate.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Goldsworthy.
So, what sort of contribution would the Reserve Committee be able to make towards this project, financially?
Financially, well, we'll work out what it's going to cost, and obviously with all other projects you've got to contribute, and we'd have to have funds come up to do it like we did last time. We've raised the funds and we'll get the funds.
We always find a way to get the funds through our community, which is a very solid community, and they will put in money to see these things through.
Any other questions?
So with that, when we went to we did give her a list of all our bills so that she could work out what was suitable.
So we'll get that
Yeah,
information.
she wasn't really sure, and as Nan said, there was a lot of changes with power and all that sort of stuff, and we're waiting for the next power bill to come.
Yep.
But we are billed now as a small and medium business.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your submission.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next submitter is Robin McLeish.
Thank you for the opportunity. It would be fairly difficult to condense 4 pages of submission into
I was going
5
to
minutes,
say that,
but I
Robin.
shall-
Robin, I'll just say that we've all read the submission,
Yes,
so
yes.
rather than going through it, you
No,
might
I'm not going to
just
do
talk
that.
to the key points.
I've raised the issue, excuse me, raised the issue of Crown land and the disconnect that we have between the council and DeWelp. And council are saying that they're not going to, or they're not able to carry out repairs, etc. on community facilities because they're on Crown land and they're a responsibility of DeWelp. Now, the Governor and Council has already said that there is an opportunity for an order that will direct reserve land to vest in the municipality. I would like the Council to look at the opportunity to gain control and honour the contribution that our early settlers made to construct these buildings. Solar heating for pools. I'm saying, could we look at the opportunity to put solar panels on the pools and generate electricity 365 days a year and use a heat exchanger during the summer period to heat the pool day and night rather than just waiting for solar energy. Footpaths and cycleways, we need the details of the footpaths. A sum of 3.35 million is very rewarding, but we don't know how much is going to be spent on footpaths. Seems a lot more is going to be spent on bike tracks. Develop a firewood plan. The delay is unacceptable. This was raised about June last year, and all we're saying is raise a project to enable firewood to be distributed across the Shire, and the comment that there wasn't firewood available is not really relevant, because you're developing a policy and you determine when firewood's available, you will do it. Rating information, I raised the normal one, which I'll cover again in the strategic plan. We would like rates prepared next year and the rating year on house and surrounds for rural properties and farmland. Employee costs and materials is fairly technical, so we'll go past that. Progress the Rubber Glen heavy vehicle deviation planning. Please change that to complete the planning of the Rubber Glen heavy vehicle deviation by the end of 2018. Discretionary reserves, again, we've looked at, I think, off the cuff, $13,000 to be put aside for the defined benefit scheme shortage. Please tell us how much we've got in that reserve. Capital Works, insufficient information to provide input on three of the items there, which are in the text. Major initiatives, which is the Beechworth Jail and the railway station. These structures will be now managed by a private company. Council involvement should be restricted to services provided to all commercial businesses in the Shire. Buildings and property. Let's look at upgrading and expanding our caravan parks. We have a huge number of grey nomads come and visit Beechworth. Let's see if we can capture more interest with better caravan parks and more facilities that appeal to them. Thank you. Any questions?
Well done, Robin. So questions for Robin on his very extensive look at our council plan? Yep. Larry, do you have sorry, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Robin, I'm just wondering if you've been bugging some of our meetings. We're addressing most of these things.
You're talking about count? Well, I'll look forward to seeing it.
Yes.
And seeing it in action, not on a folder that goes on a shelf, never to be returned again, such as happened with the Rubber Glen deviation that was carried out in 2004 by consultants and never got anywhere. So, yes, I'd like to see them happen. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so now we're moving on to submissions for the council plan. And the first one is from Vivian Harvey from the Beechworth Treescape Group. So you're not Vivian?
I'm representing Vivian. She was going to present another submission with Helen McIntyre.
Okay.
Tonight.
So,
I've got
so
9
Harvey, you're
copies
going
that
to present.
If I hand them out, it might be a bit quicker. Or
Well, you've got 5 minutes, Harvey, and I think people have already seen the submission.
Yes, it's a very simple one.
Yes. So you've got more information you'd like to hand out to us now?
Just a little bit of information. Yes, it's
Well,
a
how
little
about
bit of
you
information
just-
about our background.
Okay, if you leave it there, we'll circulate it. Thank you. And if you want to actually just expand on the submission that Vivian sent in.
Yes. Well, you've read what she says about adding trees to the sentence under our heritage and under strategic actions saying develop and maintain, implement the significant tree register. And the background is just to say that what our work is preserving Beechworth's beautiful heritage treescapes, and how in the first project, Preserve the Poplars at Camp Street in 2012, 5 years ago, how we had the support of the councillors then, Goldsworthy, Gaffney and Murdoch. We succeeded, and then we've contributed to neighbourhood character zoning in May Day, having the significance of its trees registered, We've developed tree walks, May Day, and we've backed efforts to get greater awareness and recognition of our heritage trees through wider recognition, especially through the development of the Significant Tree Register. So we're pleased with the leadership shown by recent councillors in safeguarding our heritage treescapes for future generations, and we're gratified by the very significant progress. We expect that work to continue during and beyond the 5 years. Our request seeks to ensure public recognition of that ongoing activity by noting it in the plan. We do not want the recent momentum to fall away through lack of awareness or through complacency. Let's not hide it like a lighter hidden under a bushel, but put it out there to show the leadership of our Shire. And the last couple of paragraphs, I point out that we're in good company with the councils in Melbourne in doing that.
All right, so thank you for submitting that, and we will be able to read in detail what you just alluded to.
Thank you.
Any questions for Harvey? Oh, sorry. Any questions? Okay, thank you. The next one is Judith for Quercus in Beechworth.
Thank you. Very briefly, I have two concerns which I think have been understated in theme 1 of Indigo people and communities, and that is in relationship to the value of volunteering and also of the role of community organisations. In regards to the value of volunteering, I would like to see that there would be some work done around measuring the social impact, both economically, culturally and socially, of volunteering across the Shire. It has an enormous impact, and at Quercus alone, for example, there's over 80 volunteers donating 6,500 hours of their time, $196,000 worth of time in a year. So that would be my recommendation, that some work be taken to measure the social impact, and of course these days there are very strong outcome measures that can be undertaken to do that. Secondly, in regards to community organisations, whether it be funded organisations such as Quercus, Community Health, the Yakandanda Community Centre, or voluntary organisations such as Rotary, U3A, Red Cross, I think that in the council plan I would like to see that the strength, the interface between the community development team of Indigo Shire and community organisations are strengthened, and my suggestion to do that would be to have a community development team that incorporated perhaps the awards committee and the community access committee, and the role would be to identify gaps and opportunities that have been addressed through the municipal public health and wellbeing plan. Some of the work that's undertaken by council now could perhaps be done by community organisations. I would also like to, as I said, to see the community team and the community development team and community organisations interface more, so that there is some register of community development programs and projects that happen across the Shire. And I think Community Development Committee perhaps could address that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Judith, yeah, any questions? Okay, thank you. Thanks for your submission. The next is a submission from Anne Jarvis, but Anne is not attending today, so we'll just note that Anne has put in a submission that the councillors all have access to, and that was in relation to services in Kagunya, or the lack thereof. All right, so the next one is Margie Barwood from the Beechworth Women's Shed.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor and fellow councillors. Thank you for hearing our submission. You've read the letter.
Yes.
So I don't need to go over that. What we are really here for is that we're asking for guidance of help of how to achieve a more favourable outcome in the future. That would be greatly appreciated by the Beechworth Women's Shed, and we'd like to be named our shed named Beechworth Women's Shed Inc. in the draft council plan. We're not named. And that, I believe, the final council plan comes out for adoption on the 27th, so if somehow our name could be slipped in there somewhere for support, because we have been told that we shall be included, but we'd like to see something on paper.
Okay. All right. So, any questions for Margie? Councillor Gaffney.
In theme 1, Margie, I think it mentions women's sheds, men's sheds and community groups. Is that right, Roberta? Yep. So in theme 1...
I think it just says men's.
No, definite 100% says women's sheds and men's sheds, and it's thrown together with community groups, which is probably what was mentioned previously, but it's certainly there in theme 1.
Fantastic.
So I just have a question, Margie. You're asking you'd like some guidance around achieving a more favourable outcome. Is that in relation to seeking grant money?
And getting established, yes.
Okay.
Like we've got, I think we might have 16 members now. We've got 102 Facebook followers on Facebook. We have people that we keep in contact that haven't necessarily crossed over or become financial, and we see this group as doing a lot of good in Beechworth. We're certainly not a cure for women's health. Health is our number 1 priority. We have 4 focuses. We have health, education, welfare and environment, but health is our number 1. Now, we might not be a cure, but we are a darn good preventative. And if we can string out someone's quality of life for a longer period of time, that's enough for us.
Okay, so that's answered my question. You're asking for some support from council about how to help develop further the organisation. Okay.
Yep.
So thank you for your submission, Margie.
Thank you.
And it's good to know that you are mentioned, after all. All right. The next one is Janice Milhinch. Welcome, Janice.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak very briefly. I'd like to get down and dirty, and I'd like to speak on behalf of the gutters of Indigo. Under theme 2, places, townships and infrastructure, and specifically heritage, I have requested that curbs and channels be included. It's very easy for us to overlook those things that guide our water and waste away, and there was in fact a study in 2003, so I've requested that that be extended or reviewed, and that will help us identify the current state of play with our heritage gutters or curbs and channels. The second thing I would request is that in the plan we arrange for desilting and repairing of these wonderful heritage curbs and channels. And the third thing is that they should be on a maintenance program. Now, I'm aware that there is some maintenance, but I'm suggesting here that we make it a focus of the heritage of Indigo Shire. That means resourcing it within the budget.
All right, thank you. Have we got any questions for Janice about the drains, the heritage drains? No? I think, yes, sorry, Councillor Shepherd.
Janice, we have people often write into us complaining about those drains and gutters. So just wondering how you can convince us of the need for them to be in our plan.
Well, the data from the 2003 report that was commissioned by Indigo Shire shows that the structures of these beautiful channels is quite magnificent, provided that they're uncovered. A number of them are silted up, and I know that there's an awareness that they exist, but if we can increase the public awareness of the beauty of these, they're just as beautiful as our buildings and our footpaths, and so I think that may be public education. But if we can't find them, if they're underneath weeds, we're fighting a losing battle. and then we're just overlooking them, which is what I believe is likely to increase as it is at the moment. And I understand it's a resourcing issue, but I'm speaking on behalf of our gutters.
And the gutters, thank you. No, thank you, Janice. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Our next submission is from Helen McIntyre and Vivian Harvey. It's from Helen. Helen's speaking on their behalf.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This submission is from myself and Viv Harvey. We think we've spotted a gap in policy and practice. We're asking Indigo Shire to promote the use of tap water for drinking by providing modern, attractive and accessible drinking bubblers and bottle refill stations, as many other councils do. Some councils provide filtered water in the fountains, but we think it's simple tap water which should be promoted. We want people to use tap water because of the environmental cost of plastic bottled water. Here are some of the problems with the bottled water: increase in greenhouse gas emissions, increase in land. This was really popular in the recent La Fiera Festival. So, drinking bubblers and refill stations avoid waste and pollution, they reuse resources, and they reduce carbon emissions. Encouraging this use of tap water is in keeping with the Shire policy of reducing use of plastics. This applies particularly during big crowd events such as the Golden Horseshoes Festival when it's hot. People need to stay hydrated. The ancient heritage bubbler on the post office corner this year was behind a group of 5 men dressed as statues, not noticeable or user-friendly and almost inaccessible. So, for want of a good alternative, the festival committee in the kiosk actually sells bottled water. Now, if there was a big clean new water fountain nearby, they could direct people there instead of selling bottled water. The lane near the Beechworth toilets might be a good location between the Visitors Centre and shops not affecting the heritage streetscape. And another could be installed at the Albert Road Rail Trail site in Beechworth. Other Indigo towns can make their own suggestions for tap water refill sites. The message when they get there is drink tap water. It's particularly appropriate for this council to take a stance on bottled water because of the water extraction happening in Stanley despite council and community opposition. Lots of tourists visit Indigo Shire. The fountains would provide an amenity for locals and visitors, which we don't have at present. We know from trying to fill bottles in public toilets that purpose-built fountains would be appreciated. Some fountains even include a drinking bowl for dogs, and that's in the photo of the Alpine Shire one, I think, that we sent you. More importantly, it'd be another step by council to combat climate change at the local level. We must change the culture on bottling and selling water because of its great environmental costs. Let's be among the leaders.
Yeah. Thank you, Helen. Any questions from councillors? Okay, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Do you know roughly the cost of each fountain?
Well, no, but Vic Health has got a number of fountains that you could look at.
And roughly how many would you like to see in each town or place?
Well, I've just suggested 2 for Beechworth, so I imagine some towns and villages 1, others 2. I think the ones that have the really big festivals, the plastic bottles production is just frightening. So perhaps Yak and Dander and Beechworth. Well, Rutherglen's they've got a winery walkabout coming up. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you for your submission. Thanks, Helen. And the last submitter is Robin McLeish again.
Thank you, Mayor. My first item reflects badly on Indigo Shire, which has one of the highest drug and alcohol abuse problems in the state. Now, it's a personal choice as to whether people consume alcohol and I suppose drugs, but the The focus is on alcohol, and I would like to see Indigo take a step that will cease supporting commercial enterprises selling alcohol. Cease financial support for the employment of the winemaker's marketing manager in Rutherglen, and utilise the $30,000 for more important issues. Review the joint ownership of the Rutherglen Wine Experience Centre and initiate a process to sell the property outright, or alternatively allow winemakers to buy council's share of the property. The other two items, strategic actions and population, were covered in the budget submission. Theme 2, strategic actions, which is somewhat different to what we currently do. Review the use of council buildings and properties. The recent allocation of community-owned buildings to charitable organisations at a peppercorn rent is undesirable. This is in effect council providing donations to charities of their choice, where residents may wish to make their own choice and increase value by contributing to tax-deductible organisations. If council elects to lease a building to a charitable organisation, then the lease should require the lessee to pay council rates on the building, together with a fire service levy, pay all operating costs and contribute to maintenance costs. Alternatively, the allocation of buildings at a peppercorn rent to community centres to be run by a management group comprising of community members should be supported and used to encourage increased participation in community activities. The establishment of community centres will provide strong support for government grants to maintain these facilities. I've said, covered the jail and the railway station previously. Develop a strategy for waste management. You may not be aware of it, that Wangaratta has elected to pursue their own program in terms of waste management. They've purchased their own waste collection vehicles and now manage the collection services. One of the existing landfill sites has been returned to use through containment improvements, including an impervious lining which will allow it to accept waste from the community. A composting plant has been established to handle the organic waste, and the compost produced will be used to cover and restore landfill sites. The compost will then become available for soil improvement in the region. This is a council looking after itself. It is a move away from the current fiasco that we have with Wiradjuri people saying, we don't want your composting plant in our backyard, find your own way. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. If there's questions, will you take questions, Robin? Come back. Councillor Gaffney's got a question for you.
Just one, Robin. In paragraph 1, you talk about the council should cease financial support for the employment of the winemaker's marketing manager and utilise the $30,000 for more important issues. So Councillor Murdoch and I are on the wine board at Rutherglen, and council does not contribute to that employee.
I'll provide you with a copy of the council minutes agreeing to pay $30,000 to the and a newspaper advertisement where $30,000 is being provided.
Okay, so...
I won't argue with you.
No, you won't.
Now,
So...
if the financial reports issued by the council were more expansive, we'd be able to make these decisions ourselves without having to suffer the embarrassment of coming along and being corrected by people who have access to these figures.
So, Robin, would you please forward, if you do have that statement,
Yep.
please forward that so that we can look at
Will
that.
do. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, and Councillor Goldsworthy.
Oh, just in relation to the same issue, do you have any thoughts around the comparative cost if it was a standalone visitor information centre in comparison to one that was jointly funded?
I think it needs the Economic Development Officer to evaluate what the cost structure currently is and the correct allocation of floor space, etc., so that we know what the existing building costs. Please don't use the figures that were derived by Tourism Northeast. They are completely wrong. But then we can look at a building that could be leased, where we don't suffer the problem of fairly high maintenance costs for an old building, and we can make a decision where we want the Visitors Information Centre to be and how we structure it.
Any other questions? All right, well, that is it. We have actually completed the submissions. Thank you all very much for the time and effort that you've put into your submissions and for coming along tonight. As you know, we are in the process now of looking at the council plan. We'll take into account all of your comments and submissions as we do that, and the council plan will be released, and I can't remember the exact date, but for 27th of June, thank you, and for ratification at that stage. So thank you all for your input and for the input that the community's had in this whole process with all the meetings, the submissions, and I think councillors have had a really, really great opportunity to hear from communities right across the Shire as well as individuals, and hopefully we come up with a really good council plan that takes us forward for the next 4 years. So thank you all for your input.